So, hey, it's Romania Black, and guess what? I couldn't wait. We are on Gachiakuta episode 2, and no, I could not wait after episode 1. I was like, oh, you're going to end on a cliffhanger like that. Oh, okay, fine, fair enough. We need to figure out what is going on with Rudo, and now that he's been sentenced to the pit, where does that take us? Where do we go from here? So yeah, I got up today, was working on some stuff, and I'm like, I was gonna wait a little bit more, and I'm like, no, I need to just dive in and see what this episode gives us. So that's what we're going to do. So since I have a little bit of time, I have not checked the comments yet, but hopefully you can like this video, leave a comment down below to let me know what you think about it, what you think about the episode. If you are gonna spoil things, please put a spoiler tag, and then y'all can talk amongst yourselves. My moderator will be looking at the comments. Hopefully I can answer your comments and talk with you about the show. But with that being said, I would be remiss not to thank my patrons over on Patreon who help support me in the videos, especially with the philanthropy tier who donate a couple extra dollars each month. So special thanks to Alexandra Q, to Aqua 2000, to Morphosilica, Alex Cornejo, Be Happy, Destiny Marie, Dana, Diana Williams, Daniel Ichu, Devorin, Damage 3245, Eric Fisho, Frank Acevedo, James Ghostly Turnip, Jessica Cullen, Jason N, Lyndon L. Freya, Murphy Nicholas, Mia Himigopher, as well as Jack Witt, Poppy, Rose Jennison, Rast, Shimoyama, Sunspots, Sugamom, Translucent Men, Violet Stardust, Yannon, Zero Anti-Zero, and Zachiel. You all are amazing. Everyone on Patreon, thank you so much for your support. I don't monetize YouTube, so do me a favor. If you can support me on Patreon, that'd be awesome. But if not, I get it in this economy. Do me a favor then and subscribe to the channel and like the video. And that way I'll know you all are enjoying these reactions to these shows. So with that being said, I feel like I was like the car salesman at the end. It's like, the conditions apply, like giving like the fine print at the very end of the ad. So let's just dive in. I'm super excited. I hope you all are as well. Let's see what Rudo has gotten himself into. There's apparently like a hellhound. So there's that. So hopefully he doesn't get taken in by it, killed by it. We'll see what happens. But we are going to start episode 2 of Gachiakuta. I'm excited. I hope you all are as well. And we're going to get that started with the link down below here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do it to it, Lars. Well... Oh man. For a hot second, I was like, okay, this is gonna be like a Battle Shonen. This is gonna be kind of like Bleach-esque, I guess, in a sense that it's like people with powers. But I'm like, so how's that gonna work? How is the world building gonna work? How is this gonna go? And then the moment everything clicked into place, I was like, oh, this is actually really good, and I'm kind of all here for it. So I was instantly like, yes. There's only like one micro dipping my toe into the pit part, but I'm gonna say it when it comes up because it's not enough to have like a pit section. I'm into it. I'm like, yes, please. Also, Engine's doing a lot for me. So good for him. I hope he's over 18. I don't like to simp for characters that are minors, so I'm like, no. But damn. Okay. Also, I had intended to ask the mods if I could watch the OP, and then I forgot about it as we were starting the episode, and I was like, oh, I forgot to ask them, and I'm like, well, I'll just see if, if I spot anything that seems like a spoiler, whatever, but I don't think it really will be. We've got Engine already, and I'm assuming we're going to meet some cleaners that are other characters that we'll get in the series. So the OP is surprisingly not full of outright spoilers. I'm sure there'll be stuff that I connect as we go through the OP, but it's an OP I'm like, good. Great. It gives me flashbacks to Death Note's OP, especially the song. The second Death Note OP and this one are very similar in some aspects, which is a great thing because I'm all for Maxim the Hormones' second OP in Death Note. I don't know if that's the band that does this one. I'll have to pay attention when we go back through it, but interesting. Also, you may be asking, Romania, why is there a giant whiteboard behind you? And this is Whiteboard Coon. Whiteboard Coon has been with me for like 5 years on my channel, and whenever I want to write something down or explain things like in teacher mode, Whiteboard Coon is here to help me explain all things. So he's gonna be hanging out with us, and we're gonna be writing some things on him. I would like to think this is the perfect series for Whiteboard Coon. We've got enough love and care into Whiteboard Coon over the years that he has gained sentience. And So he's here to help us. And what a perfect show to have Whiteboard Coon joining me for. So that's kind of amazing. I love it. But I want to go ahead and pull up the screenshots so we can talk through this episode and just the world building, talk through the things. Luckily, this was a really good follow-up episode here in 3, 2, 1. Sync up my screenshots here. This was a great follow-up episode to episode 1 because we got literally dumped into the pit. We get to meet another character who's going to be helping Rudo learn about the world that he's been thrust into. And we got some world building and some concepts, all the while kind of prefacing what's going to be like our power scaling that we're doing throughout the series, which is I'm pretty excited about. So let's get into it. I'm not going to lie. The moment this opened up on the streaming service that I'm watching it through and we saw the picture of like the person hanging there, I thought it was literally like Rudo's dad. And Regto was like, but then Regto got him as a baby, so that wouldn't have been the case. His dad would have fell into the pit long ago. Now, they establish a couple of things, and we're going to talk about... We finally find out, last episode, I was like, what's the sphere? What is the sphere? And so the sphere is essentially where Rudo is from, the city and the slums. And the way they describe it, I guess you have your, like, city on top of here, and it's like a little floating island is what it sounds like. And then you have, like, it sounds like a floating flying saucer, sort of, because here's, like, all your slums. They said the slums were kind of elevated. There's, like, the wall that's wrapped around. There's, like, all the city's inhabitants up there, and the slums are kind of here. And then you have, like, the guillotine that lowers people into the pit at the end of the slums. So it sounds almost like a floating island that's got, like, a hill on top of it. And it's just floating around, dumping shit, literally taking shits onto the ground below is what it sounds like. Because Engine's kind of like, you all dump your trash on us all the time, and it's a problem. And he says, we're not underground, we are above ground. We are above ground, you all are just floating over the top of us. That has a whole layer. Because last episode when we saw all of the power lines, I was like, why are there power lines? It would make sense if this were like the ground level and there had been cities. So what it sounds like, and again, we don't know the full scale of everything, what it sounds like is that this is Earth, or parallel Earth, or whatever you want to call it, and then a bunch of rich people decided they got this technology to make the sphere float, and they were all like, peace out, Earth, and they went up there and formed their own little hoity-toity society and then just dumped their trash onto everything down below. Which, if I were a resident down here, I'd be kind of pissed about. Because it's destroying power lines, it's also creating these sentient monsters. That is something, too, with the world building that we need to establish with the ground. So we have the sphere and we have the ground. So we established that, Regto said it was a myth or a legend, but it seems like it is indeed part of the world building in this series that objects can gain a soul. And not only can they gain a soul, they can give a user or individual power. They can give them power. Basically, objects become, again, I'm going to use Bleach logic, they become Zanpakutos. Is what they basically become. I grew up reading Bleach. This series has a little bit of a synonymous aspect to it in some ways. So, are the cleaners Shinigami? We will see. But they give the user power, and these people are called givers. Which is kind of funny. The givers are the ones that can use power through the objects that have gained a soul. Okay, but not only do we get that, but the trash has become its own sentient monster. So it gained a soul too, but like in a hive mind bad way where it's potentially going to be hurting people around them. And we get these like hellhounds made of trash, which is crazy. But, so yeah, we're going to dive into the world building. So Rudo is constantly wondering, like, what is the deal? What became of the people after they were sent to the pit? And they're like, another tribesfolk got the drop. Why do they commit crimes if they know that's going to happen? Here's the thing. And episode 1 kind of clears up that mystery right off the bat. Sure, people commit crimes for a number of reasons. Desperation. That's a big one. Desperation. Survival, that's another big one. Now, there are some people who want to watch the world burn and just have that in them, and they will commit a crime because that's what they want to do. There are people like that in the world, but a lot of people are desperate and they commit crimes because they need things to survive. There was a group of kids at the school that I teach at that a few years ago, they were arrested for shoplifting, and people were like, why would they shoplift? And I'm like, because they were starving. It turns out they were starving. They didn't have money. They didn't have food. And so we finally that's when our school started having a food pantry to try to alleviate that problem. But it's still a problem. And when people are like, well, why would you do that? If you get desperate enough, you'll do a lot of things to survive. And, you kind of throw society rules out the window when it's life or death. Sometimes. But the other thing, too, that we found out last episode is that why would they commit a crime? Sometimes they didn't commit the crime. Sometimes they were framed or blamed for something that they didn't do. Like, Rudo did not kill Regdo, but he was still convicted of that crime. So again, there's, and I call the people kind of hypocrites. So, like, who knows what kind of goes through the minds of filth like that. They're disgusting. The crazy irony of it all, and it seems pretty on the nose and very obvious, is that everyone in this story, so far as we know, is a human. They're all the same species. So saying that one group of people are disgusting, it's like, no, you're all human. You all have the capability to be in the same position. So you can't go around saying that one group of people is better than another, because the tides could easily turn and you could be in the same circumstance and do the exact same thing. So it's interesting. And I feel for Rudo. Rudo has a lot of anger inside of him, where Rudo you could tell Rudo is very upset by the system. He sees the hypocrisy in the society. He sees how messed up it is, but he's a kid. And even when he's, in current day, he's still a kid, and he's trying to struggle to find a way to not only walk through this world, but also survive it and also make a difference in it. So, and I feel like the mangaka is trying to let Rudo be this Rudo's kind of like a symbolic, he's our Gen Z protagonist. He's kind of a symbolic character for how I feel like a lot of people his age in the real world reading this manga probably feel. They probably feel like in that helpless situation by the rules of society, and what do we do? Certain things can only go so far before you gotta take a stand and do something. Now, does not mean you have to be murderous by chance, but gotta do something. This OP is wild. I love this OP. The giant eye, love it. I love everything about this. The animation in the OP, it goes all out. I'm here for it. There was one this scene here, madness. I'm just so cool. There's something about different angel wings, this whole thing of this shot here of all the stuff coming out of Rudo is so disgusting. I'm gonna be honest with you all. At one point during this episode, I was about to vomit. I ate lunch not that long ago, which is a mistake. I need to take note. Do not eat before watching this show. Because there was a moment I was about to gag. This is the closest I've ever gotten to gagging. The only other time has been during an episode of Chainsaw Man that I about threw up. And this is the closest we've gotten to that ever in my 6 years of reacting. So, okay. I was like, bleh. So yes, we're gonna try to avoid that in the future. I just need to take note that this show is not messing around, and it does not care what your gag reflex is. It's going to be testing the waters. So anyway, we're gonna see where this goes, right? So this episode was called The Inhabited, which to me, the inhabited refers to the souls inhabiting objects and giving them powers. That's how I determine what it means to be inhabited in this episode. For the record, I love the design of the trash monsters. They are so freaking cool. They give me I thought at first there's only 3 of them, and I was like, oh, so it is the hellhounds in Greek mythology and Roman mythology. It is the Cerberus. But no, there's a whole bunch of them. So there's a whole bunch of trash monsters that are here. It makes sense. What kind of is so genius about this, and what really got me on board, because at first I was like, okay, well, what are the powers? How do the powers work? Because if you're gonna have a Battle Shonen that does powers and it isn't a superhero motif, then it's okay, well, where did the powers come from? How does that work? Here, what we find is that the objects have power. So like with Injin, his main object is his umbrella, which Mary Poppins, y'all, I am so here for Injin. I love his character already. I love his design, everything about him. I'm all in on Injin. So we got his, and then with Rudo, it's his gloves. His gloves have the powers, and his gloves have also not only the ability, his gloves basically are like a conduit, and anything that he touches, so anything that he touches can be used, which is pretty badass, whereas Injin's umbrella is like a weapon in itself. Which that makes sense. You can't use an umbrella to hold something, so the umbrella is the weapon, right? Whereas with the gloves touching something can turn them into weapons. So the gloves necessarily aren't going to do much harm, but what they connect with is going to do the harm, which is kind of cool character work for Rudo, because Rudo seems to be longing for connection and striving for connection, and the gloves are a literal representation of that. And then with Injin, his character seems a little bit guarded at first, so the umbrella is literally shielding him from others. So it's like, I'm liking the symbolism and the character work that the show is setting up so far. It's pretty good. I like it a lot. But what sold me on this series, what genuinely sold me, was when you realize that, because you'd be like, well, all these people down here on the ground have powers. Why don't the people up in the sphere, since they're so hoity-toity and better than everyone? Because they don't make connections with any of the objects. That's the thing. That's the genius of it. They are a throwaway culture. They are a throwaway culture that have no reverence for objects. The very opening scene where the girl's doll rips. If the girl had minted that doll and formed a connection with it, she could have, it could have gained powers. But that's not what happened. Instead, as soon as it ripped, the mom was like, oh, just throw it away and get something new. There's never a developed attachment to an object, and that care is never cultivated, and so it never gains a soul and gains a power. What I'm trying to say is that Andy in Toy Story would be OP and unstoppable. He'd have an arsenal at his advantage, but that's not what we have here. So it's so genius that these people that think they're better than everyone are kind of the most powerless because of their overconsumption and their throwaway culture. Whereas the people down here that are reverent of certain objects have cultivated this power within them and are able to use them. That is, I love it. I love that part of the world building. So yes, please. Let's get in this. And poor Rudo, just being so confused. He's like, what do I even do? He's like, how does this even work? What can I do? Now, here's my only part. My only mini pit kind of questionability that I was like, okay, this is a shonen. This is a battle shonen. We have to adjust our sights. Is Rudo being super fast? Totally explained. He was super fast from the first episode. He was doing some Spider-Man moves, but whatever. I'll take that. I'll take that. How could they drop me into this hell? Here's the thing. Before I get to my little mini pit moment, I don't think anybody in the sphere know that these things exist. I don't think anybody up top has a clue that there are monsters like this. I need Rudo to tame these monsters and ride them like Hercules on top of Cerberus through the gates of hell onto the sphere. I need that to happen. I don't think I'm asking for much. I need him to tame the trash beasts and ride them up to the sphere to go take charge and go invade. I need him to do that. We'll see what happens. But no, I don't think the people in the sphere have any clue that these exist. I think they're just dumping their trash and they're like, out of sight, out of mind. We're not worried about it. I don't think they have a freaking clue. Because you would think if the people up top knew about these beasts, they would incorporate that into the pit lore. They'd be like, you're going to get dropped into the pit and then you're going to be devoured by these monsters. You think that would have made it into the lore, but it hasn't. Also, it brings up a question about our masked murderer who killed Regto. Did they come from the ground? They seem to, because they have a mask and kind of like engines. How did they get up from the ground? How'd they get there? Did they ride one of the trash monsters and then jump up onto something and get on the sphere? They make a note of saying that the sphere moves constantly. So it's literally like a floating island. It just keeps moving constantly. The sphere does. So maybe you just have to catch it at the right time. I don't know. But how did the masked person get up there? And why did they go back up there? I mean, I can understand why. I can understand why you wouldn't want to stay down here. Seems pretty terrifying. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Also, just the concept that, oh my God, the world building, I'm kind of in love with it. The concept that the sphere keeps moving around, dumping trash as it goes, and it's just littered the entire planet to the point where it's just covered in trash and is disgusting. Oh my gosh, that is just, I'm here for that world building. I am solidly here for it. So, one thing that I'm glad they did establish is that the air here is awful. Like, I don't know if you've been around a landfill before. I have not. Nobody wants the hantavirus. Don't be going doing it. But I've not been around a landfill. But what I can say is that I have been to New York City before. And New York City, I've been there, and New Orleans. And those are the two places where I have smelled the scent of like trash to the point where it's kind of disgusting. For me, it was, I went to New York City back in, I've been there a couple times, but this was back in like 2018 before COVID. I just remember being on the street like late at night coming from a restaurant, and then like everybody put their trash out on the side of the road to get picked up, which is disgusting to me. I think trash is disgusting. And just the smell that permeated off of that is just, it makes me very glad to live out in the country where the air is much more clean, right? The other thing was when I went to New Orleans once and you went down to Bourbon Street, don't do it. Just don't. It smelled like pee and garbage and sewage and just, And I grew up on a farm, so I'm used to like animal feces and stuff like that. It does not smell as disgusting as like the putrid dumpster liquids they get tossed out. I cannot imagine like your lungs would just be completely devoured by pollution if you stayed there. And the fact that he just like dug his hands through that garbage and then put it up to his mouth, you're gonna have to not eat before watching this show because it's pretty disgusting. Okay, so one thing that's kind of hinted at here is that he's trying to think of what to do. I love this shot. This shot where he's like, but does somewhere safe even exist in a world like this? Yeah, that is a very real concept. You've been thrown into hell from the pit. You're looking around going, well, there's dead bodies. I can imagine most people die on impact. I got lucky and landed on some trash. But as you can see, not every place is cushioned with trash. You fall to your death. You fall on a spike, something like that, a piece of metal. His face being like, where is safe? Can I even go anywhere? Is such a real feeling that just, But what gets me is like the build up to the world building here of his powers. Like as these monsters are coming and he's looking around being like, what do I do? Am I going to die here? And then he thinks of Recto telling him, that shot of Recto bleeding is crazy. And we see his powers start to manifest. So again, you see where there are things he can grab and use. So the genius is, until we got full confirmation of how the powers worked, I was like, well, how can he hit the monsters with the poles? How's that work? It's his powers manifesting. That's so cool. I'm like, okay, cool, nice, awesome. He's like, that son of a bitch who killed Recto, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. That is something to take note of, because you would imagine that Rudo would be very murderous and be like, I'm gonna kill that person, but he doesn't say that. I don't know if it's a translation issue or not. He says, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him, meaning that Rudo hasn't totally given in to murderous bloodlust. Now, I feel like he has bouts of anger, which I can understand why Rudo would have some anger issues, given the state that he's grown up in, and Injun kind of has to get him out of it, but we'll see where that goes. The Inhabited, episode 2. That's such an iconic shot. I love the shot of him on the umbrella. Love it. With the binoculars. Love it. And he's like, hey, is he manifesting some powers? I want to go get him. I'm curious to know what the cleaners do, because we've established givers are the ones that you can use the powers, and then there are cleaners, which I'm curious if cleaners are going to end up being like what he was doing above on the sphere, like collecting junk and reselling it, or what that ends up being. Love the stop sign use. Like the stop sign use and everything, this literally is like, this is Earth. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk made a floating sphere in the sky, took all their rich buddies with them, and now they're just floating over the Earth trashing it. Doesn't seem that far from far-fetched when you think about it, so... Doesn't seem that out of reason when you really get down to it, unfortunately. Now, the only part, I've been taking forever to get to this, The only part about the series that I was like, also them smelling like Regtos farts, really funny. This is the only part that I was kind of like, okay, show. And it's just a minor complaint. It's not even a complaint. It's just, you got to suspend your disbelief for anime logic. Was that I was like, he got through into a mountainside and lived. So when, I don't know, that is my only critique of anime, especially Battle Shonen, is when it's not realistic about the damage being dealt. Like, if the characters have a power that prevents them from getting damaged, like if they have a defensive capability, like in Bleach, there's a defensive capability that prevents them from getting damage. Okay, whatever. In another series, there's like, they've ate like a devil fruit or something in One Piece, and that helps to strengthen them. Okay. They can make a force field or sphere, or combine their reishi to make like a barrier around them. Okay, fine, whatever. But when you're just like getting thrown around Dragon Ball Z style into a building and then you're fine, I'm kind of like, okay. And the only reason I say okay is because it takes away some of the stakes. Like, when a character dies or gets stabbed, I'm like, well, Rudo got thrown into a mountain. He was fine. Why are you not fine? So that's my only little mini pit. But you kind of have to, when you watch a Battle Shonen, you have to just accept that that's part of the world building and just go, okay, I'm going to suspend my laws of physics and disbelief to allow this to happen. And as long as you're okay with doing that, then it's fine. It was the only time that I really saw anything like that. So that's literally like my little mini pit moment for the episode. But everything else does make sense. And the fact that this, like the railroad crossing, everything is like, this is Earth. Just in the future, the people have gotten onto the sphere. I don't know if I like the idea of the trash becoming sentient, though. We've got a lot of landfills in our world. I don't like the idea of those landfills getting, like, Terminator style. Don't like that. There's, like, some thrown out AI that gets mixed with the trash and then creates a Terminator. I'm not here for it. But, yeah, just the trash monsters are really cool. I love their design. So then, I feel for Engine, because Engine's kind of being like, hey, we need to shut up because these monsters are going to kill us and they can detect sound. And meanwhile, Rudo's like, I can't hear you. What'd you say? What is this place? What's going on? And the funny thing is, you can't blame Rudo for why he's doing the things that he's doing, but then you also can't blame Engine for being just pissed, being like, why can't you do what I say? He's like, what is this world? And he's like, I said, shut up, kid. I am already, the moment you give me a guy with black nails and tattoos all over his body, like a damn Yakuza, I'm here for him. I'm already here for him. And he's got like the big Peaky Blinders haircut. I'm already here for him. I'm just like, come on, Engine, let's go. I like these buttons. These buttons are interesting. The mask is cool. It's not underground. The trash was thrown here by you stupid spherites. I've been telling you to shut. That is a terrifying shot. The monster just opening up its mouth and gobbling down all the trash, like coming towards them. That's terrifying. Also, the idea of Engine having like the big trench coat on him. I'm like, I'm all sold. I'm sold on this character. You would think, here's the thing. You would think the people thrown, there's an interesting thing brought up here. One, not everybody on the ground is from the sphere. The guys that are on the ground kind of established that there were a lot of people left behind to struggle, and so most of the spherites that were thrown down to the ground ended up dying. But the ones that lived are either like torn apart, sold, put into slavery, whatever, because people hate them for what they've caused on the earth that they live in. And you kind of get where they're coming from, because everything looks disgusting down there, right? Quit shouting like a moron. I do love that his energy is like orange. I love it. He has like this golden yellow energy. And look at freaking, as soon as it starts to like glow, like Rudo's eyes, he's like, oh my gosh, he has abilities. What is this? I'm like, you'll get some here in a moment. I want them all to have rainbows. Rudo is red. Engine is like golden, orange. I need a blue. I need a green. I need a rainbow of cleaner abilities. The fact that the umbrella becomes this like spinning, rotating blade with a sphere on top. I love the design of it. I'm a big fan of umbrellas, so using it as a weapon, freaking cool. Everything about Engine's design, I am all here for. I love it so much. It's like a big spinny top. Yes. Cool. And apparently the energy that is output from their objects can make it to where the trash monsters don't regenerate. So that's cool. That's good world building. I like that. I like that a lot. Don't like the fact that there's a whole mess of trash monsters. Don't like that. This one in the back seems to be the leader. So I'm curious, like, what their deal is and what's been going on. Can we ride that giant monster at the end to get back to the sphere? We'll see. All of the detail in the trash is just, it's so good. It's so well done. And then, yeah, Engine's coming down like Mary Poppins. Be like, if I had power like that, I'd show all those assholes. Well, surprise, surprise, you definitely will. Also, the monsters can shoot out acid. So then he says, Unbreaker, Octashredder. Okay, which as soon as that was said, I was like, oh, we are in Bleach vibes for sure. So instead of like Umbrella, it's Unbreaker. That's fun. And then Octashredder, because I think there are 8 blades on there. Nice. I mean, if you have nothing else to do in a world of trash, coming up with cool bitchin' names for your, like, your weapons and their attacks is, why wouldn't you do that? I'm here for it. I'm digging the concept. I like it. And then, of course, our boy Rudo passes out. Nice. So, we get the flashback with Regto. And Regto's glad that Rudo didn't, try to harm the other kids because he's afraid that as soon as he harms the other kids, they're going to use that as an excuse to throw him into the pit. He still has that book. The whole time Regto has been using that book and taking notes from it. So whatever is in that book seems to be relatively important. So because the other person from the ground seemingly wanted it. Interesting indeed. I do like that we still get to see Regto. I hope his character stays in the series, even if it's only through flashbacks, because I really liked his character in episode 1, and I was instantly sad when he died, so I was like, man, I hope that he gets to come back through flashbacks. That would be great. This towel has a soul, and that's why it gets you so clean. Look at how cute he is. Look at how cute little Rudo is. Isn't that adorable? Ugh. Cute little kid. He's like, so everything here has a spirit and soul. He's like, well, they could have souls. Yes. I love the way that... Regto's so sweet. That's awesome. I hope we get more with Regto. And that's when he wonders about the gloves. And he's like, yes, if you treat them with care, in time, a soul will inhabit them. I love that it's, a two-sided coin. If you treat something with care like the umbrella or the gloves, they'll gain this power that you can use. But if you mistreat them and just dispose of them, eventually all that negative residual energy will build up and cause them to become monsters. So I love it. I think it's really creative. I like it. It's what I also like about it is that there is a clear environmental message in this series without being like 90s Ferngully and being very overt with it and on the nose. They're just like, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what's going down. I also enjoy that Engine is not just like, hey, buddy, old pal, welcome to the ground. He's like, he's taking into consideration that Rudo could be dangerous. And since Rudo does not know about the world and is kind of hasty and impetuous, he's like, I'm not going to let you be dangerous and put us at risk until you sit down and listen to what's going on, calm down and figure it out. Or activate your powers and release yourself and then we'll talk about it. But him just struggling with his legs, that was really funny. I think Engine might become my favorite very quickly. I like him. But I don't know. He kind of establishes that this is a dog-eat-dog world, and we might not be able to trust Engine. I don't know. Could I see Engine betraying Rudo? Well, absolutely. This world is pretty tumultuous. Why wouldn't he? He's like, I want to know about this world, about the monsters, and about the power you use. I'm going to use it to beat the tar out of the asshole and the shitheads on the sphere. So... I like that Rudo says, look, I'm against all the people in the sphere because they all turned on me. I want to teach them a lesson, but I need to know about this world in order to do that. And Engine's like, okay, fine. I'll tell you how this world is, but I'm going to let you learn the hard way. So we do establish that not every place on the planet is a pile of trash. You can see the stuff they've cleared off and everything. But what is established is that trash gets dumped all the time. And that it's, if you think about it, a trash a refrigerator gets dumped from the sphere. that could fall on somebody and kill them instantly. So yeah, if I was below ground, I'd be terrified at all times that something was going to fall down from the sky and crush my home, crush my family, crush my car. It would completely destroy your way of life. So I can see why the people here are mad about what's going on. And so he gets drugged to this little like gas station and it looks like they're just gathering stuff out of the trash heap and taking it to wherever they can sell it and pawn it off. I'm curious what this says. It's like a Hume. It's like AVRUN, like upside down. I'm curious what that means. I don't know the language and how it's written here. But anyway, should have known. As soon as these guys show up and they're like, oh, are you an actual spherite? And he's like, I'm from the sphere, I guess. These guys at first, I was like, okay, they seem like they're good, but then this seems too good to be true. So what are they going to do? And then come to find out, usually we just find dead bodies. But now that you're alive, we can make a lot more money off of you. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't rewatch them try to feed him the finger. And just thinking about it makes me want to gag. And I'm sorry. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the hand part. Which I think that there is at one point, they think since he's a spherite that, one thing we should note, they think since he's a spherite that he will have like no understanding of what trash is and that eating trash will be disgusting. Two things that are kind of cool to note. One is that they have no idea that there's the slums on the sphere, which Rudo could educate them about. I'm sure nobody that they've talked to has given them that information before. But also the fact that Rudo ate the trash and then ate the, like he basically did some cannibalism there for a hot second. I mean, making a point, but he made a point by saying everything's still edible. Don't question me about what I know and don't know and how I am. He's like, don't judge me, bitches. You can't judge me. But also the cannibalism in that moment. Look, I can't redo the finger scene only for one very specific reason. And, oh my God, ew. The reason for that is my dad, when I was very little, we had a farm and we had like an auger that ground up feed to give them. And it has a metal engine and blade that grinds the feed up. And my dad thought it was turned off when he was working on it. And he stuck his hand in to get something and didn't realize it was turned on. And the way that the auger worked is that it would automatically come on whenever it sensed that something needed to go down the chute. My dad stuck his hand in at the wrong time. The auger sensed something and turned on, and it went and just cut his hand, like right there. His fingers were not completely cut off, but they were literally dangling, like off of his hand. Now, I'll give this guy some credit. I was like, why aren't you in more pain? But then I thought about it in the moment during the reaction. When it happened to my dad, he was on so much adrenaline and his body was in shock that he just grabbed the fingers, put them back together, wrapped them around a towel, and the guy that was helping them at the farm, the hired hand, was like, oh shit, and they drove to the hospital so he could get the fingers. And they were sewn back on. His nerve endings all got damaged, so he can't grip things very well anymore, but that happened like 20 years ago. But yeah, he did have his fingers sewn off. So the moment I saw that, I was like, ew, 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 ew. Take note that this series will be gross. This series will be gross. The OP should give you enough knowledge that it's going to be a gross series and that there's all this trash and stuff and sewage. You should know by now it's going to be a gross show. And if this episode didn't preface that for you, then that's your own fault for not realizing it, right? Right? Anyway, I do really love, he's like, quit sorting people out with the labels you choose. I love that. I love that we go back to our boy Rudo realizing and telling them, being like, I'm tired of being labeled this. I'm tired of being judged based on my dad, who I didn't even know. I'm tired of being assumed by this and this and that. He's like, it's the same down here as it is above ground. All humans are the same. Y'all need to quit being garbage. And so, ironically enough, and then he activates his ability and starts using the like, I love the glove. He's like, I won't take it anymore. And Injun's like, oh, cool energy. I love you just watching from the side. I had him pegged from the start. Did you, sir? Did you? I'm going to get my mind out of the gutter. I really like Injun's design. He's great. If you treat an object with care, it'll gain a soul. and that soul will come to your aid. Love it. Love that they've taken the folklore and applied it, right? And so then they're like, oh, there are spherites who can do it too. So I'm curious to know, like, how many people on the ground can use this ability. It makes sense why the spherites can't. It makes sense based on their culture why they cannot. But also, I'm very curious, like with Engine, those who can give life to objects and draw out their powers are called givers. So this concept is giving life to objects. Giving life to objects and drawing power to aid. Yeah, love that. I also like if you looked at Engine's umbrella, it had very specific style of spikes to it. And here, all of that may be where the rose comes from in the OP, because all of the objects that Rudo touches that gain like a soul and ability have like red spikes, like blood red. And in the OP, there's that rose, which have thorns. These chains suddenly got a bunch of thorns on them. The tire that he got thorns. So maybe that's tied to his ability. Maybe. I think it's pretty badass. Yeah, and he's like, go ahead and kill the little freak. And it's like, no, it's not going to be easy. I also like that Rudo didn't kill him. He just knocked them all out. And then he's like, he can use more than one object. I love the Engine's like, okay, come on, be jealous. But honestly, if you think about it, the gloves aren't really a weapon. They're just a conduit for him to give. And it makes sense for Rudo's character. The series kind of prefaces it back in last episode because Rudo has been tending to all of these objects and giving them all care. So it kind of makes sense he'd be able to bring them all to life. The world building, y'all. The world building. I love it. So it's great. But yeah. So then these guys get knocked out. And he's like, just die, you monster. And Engine's like, okay, hold on. He's like, calm down there, son. That's far enough. And yeah, he had all these objects in the air. Like our boy was getting some telekinesis powers there. Which also makes sense when he was fighting the trash monster. He was like, he grabbed a hold of the metal that he used to slice through the trash monster. And the gloves were touching the metal. So that's why it gained that power. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. All makes sense. He says, Engine, was it? He's like, well, yes. What did I just do? What was all that? The moment I remembered Regto's words. He's like, yeah, using your power like that will wear your body down because he started bleeding. Sorry about that. I had to make sure your power was the real thing. So he noticed him through the binoculars from afar and was like, we can use that. And he's like, I'll tell you all you want to know about this world and your power. So next episode, we're going to get some explanations. I'm excited. But in exchange, you're going to join the cleaners. We need people like you. Yep. I kind of like this little moment here with the blood because in Japan, I know that's probably not what this is for, but in Japan, like anytime your nose bleeds, you're like really excited or into something. And again, like this is totally on a platonic level. I'm not shipping Engine and Rudo. Don't get it twisted. I'm not shipping yet. I'm holding back. But what is interesting is that Rudo very much wants to be needed and he wants to find belonging. And so the concept of this guy coming up to him and saying, hey, you have a power that makes you useful. Do you want to join our ragtag group of cleaners? And we all have powers and we can be a community together. What else could our boy ask for? So it makes sense why he would be all about it. Now the ED, enjoy the ED. The idea of this broken hand, all I could think about, I'm not joking, looking at this is Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Don't ask why. I just thought of that whenever the hand came down. I was like, oh, that reminds me of that. I like the idea that it's cracked. I like the idea that it comes down and it's cracked. It gives me the idea of there's the theory that once you break a teacup, even if you put it back together, it will never be complete again because you can never get all the little parts and pieces back together. So is that, a symbol of Rudo? I don't know. But yeah, we have the cube falling down into the trash. Oh, that looks like freaking Escher. That looks really cool. Love that. And then the trash, and then it breaks apart. And then as it gets to the bottom, I love the idea of the strings catching it, kind of like Rudo's ability, and reforging it into this heart. Nice. Also kind of reminds me of like the power lines. And then it breaks apart and there's Rudo himself. And then this little thing crumples at the end. He picks it up. And as he picks it up and throws it in the air, it has like this red around it, like it's almost like oxidized. And it's rusty, which the red of his powers, so curious, so interesting. But yeah, once we established the world building, I was like, oh no, I am all here for this now. I am down pat for this. I'm like, okay, let's work. So some quick questions as we go into episode 3. Obviously, we have the masked murderer. And like, did they come from the ground? Seems like they did. Do they have powers? They weren't using any objects to help them, seemingly. They had that sword, but we didn't see any like buzz things off of it. Is the masked murderer the dad? That's the question too. Is the dad alive? Rudo had the question of if his father was sent to the pit. Did he die? Did he land on trash and die? I feel like he's alive. I feel like he's too important of a character to be dead, but he could be. He could be. Are they the masked murderer? We don't know. Why is the masked murderer up on the sphere? How did they get on the sphere? Why are they after the book? What of Regto's is that important? Why did they kill Regto? Why didn't they just take the book and go? Lots of questions involved with that. I'm excited to meet the cleaners. I'm excited to hear more from Engine. He seems really cool. I'm excited to see how these powers, like what's their end goal going to be. Because, I mean, Rudo has the goal of wanting to go back to the sphere and get revenge on everybody that knocked him down to the ground. Will that ambition and goal stay the same, or will it change over time? We've got to see. So I'm very excited to know what's going to happen. But this series, last episode, I was like, okay, where is this going? And now I see where we're going, and I'm pretty darn excited. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. Comment down below your thoughts, and I'll see you all next week with episode 3 of Gachiakuta. And I'll see you then.